Normally they'd be arrested in minutes, but police turned a blind eye to thousands of people smoking cannabis as they marched through London calling for the decriminalisation of the drug. The event, hailed as the biggest pro-cannabis rally in the British capital since the 60s, was backed by celebrities including former Beatle Paul McCartney. Campaigners deny legalisation would lead to an increased use of harder drugs. Instead, they point to medical benefits such as relief from the symptoms of multiple sclerosis, cancer and AIDS. And they accuse the World Health Organization of suppressing evidence that cannabis is less harmful than tobacco or alcohol.
People were openly smoking cannabis on the streets of London today, despite police warnings that they risked arrest. They were marching through the capital, supporting calls for the drug to be decriminalised. A Labour MP told them most of his colleagues agreed with them.
More than 10,000 people snaked their way through central London in support of the decriminalisation march and rally. The organisers said it was a far greater turnout than they'd expected. At the head of the march, the editor of the Sunday newspaper, which had organised the demonstration. She said the message to the government was clear.
We keep getting 400 or 500 letters a week rolling into the office. They just keep coming from all walks of life, from police officers, from prison officers, from teachers, from doctors. It's not just confined to, as Downing Street tried to say at the beginning, a bunch of middle-aged hippies who wanted to smoke a joint. It's just not that.
The destination for the march was Trafalgar Square. Once there, the crowd heard from a number of speakers, including a woman who said cannabis was her only relief from the agony of multiple sclerosis.
I deserve the right to autonomy and liberty, to feel comfortable and happy to ignore my disease if I found a way. The right to deal with my twitchy, pissy, clumsy body the best way I know how.
And a Labour MP defied his own party policy to call for the law on cannabis to be changed.
The majority of MPs were on your side according to a recent poll. Let them come out of their closets and realise that advocating decriminalisation is good for their majorities.
Despite the numbers attending today's rally and march, the Home Office is adamant that their drugs policy will not change. There will be no decriminalisation of cannabis. Despite the air being thick with cannabis smoke and hundreds of people smoking the illegal drug in front of police officers, there was only one arrest. David Bowden, Sky News.
Welcome to Sunday, this Sunday, the 29th of March. Culture and drugs this week. The Conservative Shadow Cabinet Member for Culture and Sport, Francis Maud, will join me to discuss the upsurge in soccer violence this World Cup year and to explain why the Tories are now having doubts about the National Lottery which they launched. So, is it time to legalise it now? Drizzle didn't stop a larger than expected turnout for the first decriminalised cannabis march since the 1960s. I'll be speaking exclusively to Keith Hallowell, the top policeman, now appointed Britain's first ever drug czar.
Tonight's Eye on America investigates a little-known aspect of this country's laws, attitudes, and regulations about drugs. Case in point, U.S. farmers who want to switch cash crops from tobacco to hemp, used in clothing and other products. The problem? Growing hemp is banned because it's in the marijuana weed family. So is this reefer madness or wise policy? CBS's Cheryl Atkinson looked into it.
The Graves family has been farming this land, nestled in Kentucky horse country, since the Civil War.
It's got some green in it still.
Now Andy Graves is running the farm, and he's coming to grips with a new reality about the family's cash crop, tobacco.
It's such an unsure future at this particular day and time.
You think your future is not in tobacco?
Oh, I don't think so. No, I'm afraid I would be foolish to think that probably that there would be a great future in growing tobacco.
So Andy thinks his future is in another crop once grown on this land.
There it is.
a strong fiber called hemp that he thinks could help save the family farm.
Where did you get this?
It's from Ontario, Canada.
From Canada because it's illegal to grow hemp in the U.S. Hemp is in the cannabis family, a non-narcotic look-alike of its close cousin, marijuana. While the difference is clear to Andy Graves, he can't seem to convince the government.
We've run into a man named McCaffrey, who may be a good general, but he doesn't know beans about farming.
That would be General Barry McCaffrey, the nation's drug czar. He insists anyone who wants to grow hemp has a hidden agenda, to legalize pot.
Just a subterfuge, to be honest, to make it impossible for law enforcement to maintain the laws of the United States against marijuana production.
In Kentucky, hemp harvest comes in August.
Ironically, the government once begged farmers to grow hemp, producing this film during World War II.
Bread for shoes for millions of American soldiers.
Andy's father, Jake Graves,
Here I am weighing the hemp.
was one of the farmers who did his patriotic duty back then.
They desperately needed for the parachutes originally, because we did not have nylon and rayon at that time.
After the war, farmers turned to other crops and didn't object in the 1970s when the U.S. outlawed the growing of all cannabis, including non-narcotic hemp. But in the 90s, hemp is being rediscovered. It grows without pesticides, is biodegradable, and is used in everything from clothing to car parts. While Andy Graves fights for a piece of the action, British farmers are planting their 6th crop, firmly convinced that hemp is not a drug.
If you do try to smoke it, you would need a joint the size of a telegraph pole to get high on it.
But in the U.S., hemp can't seem to shake its negative image because the cause has been embraced by the movement to legalize pot, much to Andy Graves' dismay.
Are you the kind of guy that is looking to sort of legalize marijuana through the means of getting hemp grown?
Do I look like somebody that's doing that? Heavens, no.
To prove it, Graves is going to court. He's leading a group of Kentucky farmers suing the federal government to bring back the crop that was once their heritage. In Lexington, Kentucky, I'm Cheryl Atkinson for Eye on America.
And that's part of our world tonight. For the CBS Evening News, Dan Rather reporting. Thank you for joining us. Good night.